Hey, folks. Good morning. Happy Wednesday. Please, nobody make fun of my image. I know it's fuzzy. Get over it. Y'all have been doing this a long time. You know what we're going through. You know the bandwidth suck that is LinkedIn when it comes to this. I am doing this from my office because Alex kicked me out of her bedroom where the server's at because she's doing her freshman year of college. Thank you, COVID. And somewhere in the house, Eli is doing his freshman year of high school. Thank you, COVID. So here you go, and thank you, Florida. So hence why my screen looks horrible. But you all are used to my face, and I'm sure Michael will put up a beautiful image of me, and it will be fun. Make sure you all click on that share link, smack the emojis, throw questions in there. Let us know. It's good to see Dan here. How's London, Dan? I'm sure it's raining. Sidrahar, miss you, man. Haven't seen you in forever. Veronica, everyone else, glad to have you all in. Let's go ahead and get started because we've got a lot to cover on the show today. Good morning, everyone. My name is Stan Maule, managing partner for 11FS here in North America. Welcome to episode 111 of the 11FS FinTech Insider Breakfast Show. As you know, in the show, we bring you the best and the brightest from around the fintech and banking landscape every single weekday, straight into your homes at 8:30 British Standard Time, apart from Mondays and Wednesdays when you get me at 10:30 a.m. if you didn't know what time it was. All right, a little bit past that. For the U.S. shows, glad to have you here. Make sure you subscribe to the 11FS channel here on LinkedIn so you don't miss any of these. And I want to highlight the 11FS Daily Brief that we do here on LinkedIn every morning at 8:30 a.m. Eastern Time. We post a short video summarizing 3 news stories from the past 24 hours that caught our attention and should have yours. On today's show, we talked about how screwed the U.S. airlines are. Good God, the numbers are ridiculous. Just on air travel and the number of layoffs that are potentially coming in October. We talked about Ant Financial's IPO that is just going to be stupidly ridiculous. Man, the sheer number of IPOs right now in tech are just absolutely amazing. And then Apple, more or less, thanks to their stock split, telling Exxon to get off the Dow Jones Industrial Average, which is crazy because Exxon was the biggest company in the world back in 2013, most valuable company, man. If you don't think digital and tech are taking over, I don't know what else to say. All right, with that, let's get our guest in. Today, I'm thrilled to be joined by Nuri Otus. He's the founder and CEO of txtsmarter. And man, I hope I said that right, Nuri. Today's show, we'll talk about intelligent compliance and native texting and how it can help companies and employees stay safe and prevent breaches of privacy. And let me just go ahead and say, I think most of you in the audience know this. I started my career in banking as an auditor. If you didn't know that, I started my career in banking as an auditor, working for Northern Trust, doing SAS 70 audits, which was incredibly not exciting. But I understand the importance of regs. I understand the importance of compliance. I understand the importance of data history. And back in my day, it was, basically how much stuff sat in paper format or, some sort of digital format. Man, that was the 90s. Now, Nuri, basically, there are so many text communication methods. I mean, oh my God. I'm sure, and my kids keep discovering new ones to hide.
As does everybody else.
Yes, thank you. We're all guilty of that. So when I was taking a look at your company and what it does, I could think of a million use cases. So here's the challenge, Nuri. Let's just start there. Give me the 30-second pitch. What is the company? What is it you do?
So we have developed technology that captures, for compliance purposes, data previously unavailable to highly regulated industries. And when we say highly regulated industries, they're exactly who you think they are. They're banking, they're insurance, they're medical, basically the most highly educated people in the world. And what we have built is what most people have said was not possible. We've built a way to, in almost real time, I say real time, but I'm told I can't say real time, so I have to say almost, is by grabbing data and putting it into an archive in a way that maintains the necessary privacy for the users by being GDPR and CCPA and other privacy regulations that exist in the world. And so we cover both the privacy aspect and we cover the compliance aspect for large institutions. So when I say highly regulated people, it's stock brokerages, it's private, it's family offices, it's independent registered advisors, it's stockbrokers, it's guys in Wall Street. Everybody uses text messages. You know, at the beginning of this COVID thing, the CEO of Verizon was on TechCrunch, and he said, we've seen a 1,200% increase in mobile data, right? That was in 1 month. We're now 5 months later. Where are we today? Well, where we are today is there are over 6 trillion messages sent in the world per day. And here's the beauty of what we do in comparison to everybody else. Nobody else can get what we get. Nobody else can get iMessage. Apple doesn't do it. And a lot of people think, oh, I can call Verizon, I can call Orange in the UK, I can call AT&T. They can give me my text messages. No, they can't. They don't hold on to it for obvious reasons. Well, then people think, well, it's got to be on my phone. Well, it is for a minute, because once you have sent your 10,000th message, when message 10,001 comes, it's automatically deleted from your phone. So the only place that people can go for at this time is txtsmarter. And you know, we're very young, as I talked before we started this interview. We're very young, right? We're crawling at this point. We'll be walking sometime next quarter. But as we go out and we talk to different organizations, some of the biggest banks in the world, some of the biggest companies in the world, the response has been, and I don't, has been much stronger than, oh my.
We cuss, Nuri. I'll just go ahead and say that. It's going to happen. Okay. I'll lose it because I'll probably be yelling at one of my kids. And by the way, I told you we're going to have an international audience. Dr. Abdullah in Saudi Arabia, who is in the gas and oil cybersecurity space. I'm expecting one hell of a good question from him. Sirhar, who's in San Francisco. What part of San Francisco are you in, Nuri, by the way?
So I'm on the San Francisco Peninsula. I'm about 20 miles south of San Francisco. Okay. So almost geographically between San Jose and San Francisco.
So there you go. So Sirhar is another company founder who's up by you. So Sirhar, I expect you two to get a cup of coffee once social distancing allows in San Francisco. But I'm also expecting one hell of a good question coming out of Sirhar for the space that he's in. So can you do me a favor? Talk about what different platforms you cover, because you mentioned some of them, and I remember I was reading that now you can actually go out and get data history from WhatsApp. So what are the various different platforms that you can actually cover with the solution?
So as we built the model for our business, we realized that unless we could address things that the incumbents in the space could not address, that we were not going to have a strong enough story of differentiation. So we went out and we said, okay, what's the biggest problem that exists today? Well, it's iMessage and it's Android SMS and MMS. Well, we covered Android SMS and MMS first. And then about a year later, I got a phone call one day, and it was that eureka moment where our team went, okay, we have iMessage. And then we started testing it. And we started with a small group, and we grew to a larger group, and we grew it again, and we grew it again, and it kept working. And it continues to work. And now my favorite, as I talk to people, I just tell them really simply, look, don't listen to me talk, because I'll talk all day. Let me give you a technology demo and let our technology speak for itself. And as I was telling you before we started again, I did that recently for one of the largest financial institutions in the world. And this guy came out of their new technology group. And when I showed him what we built, he was jumping in his chair, literally like a kid. I looked for this for 3 years. How come I didn't find it? Well, when you look for this, we didn't exist. We're new, and that's fine. And you know, the beauty of this is, I've been in sales. I'm 58 years old. I've been in sales my whole life. As I said to you before, my mother said I was selling from the crib. I've never been in a situation like this where I've walked into a room, talked to people, and had them just get so excited. And it's flattering.
You know what it is, Nuri? And you know this because we were talking before the show, right? You told me one of my I love what you said. My path is the tortured path, and you learn more through the hard times. Because I'm 54, so between the two of us, we got 112 years of experience. There you go, baby. So for everyone, what I find fascinating is timing. Is, oh my God, come up with a solution, but in the right time. And timing is everything. I don't like saying luck, but timing is a massive hurdle to get over. A lot of people come up with solutions and it wasn't the right time for it, right? It was too early. Or, the stars didn't align. Something that you're doing now. You think about, God, there's vast number of people working from home now with COVID and using personal devices. You and I both remember when there's no way in hell my company was going to let me use my own phone to do anything. I mean, we both know that, right? I remember I remember in the 90s working and having to check out the laptop that I could take home. And the laptop, by the way, was a suitcase, everybody. The sucker was that big. It was not hardwired into anything. So that's where a solution like what you have as an auditor just seems to be so brilliant for me. I don't know. I know Veronica is on. She works at Truist. And Veronica can tell me the data storage requirements. I know in a lot of cases, you're talking 7, 8, 10 years is the compliance requirements for a lot of this data.
That's correct. That's correct. Depending upon the geographic area in the United States, it sometimes gets as granular as per state. For example, California is 7 years, Oregon is 10. And those are state regulations. Federal regulations are different. You've got all sorts of agencies. You've got FCA in London. You've got FDIC, SEC, OCC. Pick your 2, 3, 4, 5-letter acronym agency that has something to do with our government. Every one of them has something to say. And that's the hard part, is putting this data together, pulling it together in such a way where it represents a conversation. And when I call it a conversation, what it means is when you have a communication, if you and I were exchanging information via email, via phone, via text message, via WhatsApp, via Facebook Messenger, via Twitter, right? You've got so many different ways for people to be able to communicate that you've got to cover all of those different ways. So as I said earlier, we've started, but I want to correct one thing. When I said we're a young company, we incorporated the company in 2014. We spent the better part of 2 years validating the market. We looked at what the problems were in the market. We looked at where the gaps were in the market. And what we wanted to do was we wanted to fill that. And it wasn't a gap. It was the Grand Canyon. We wanted to fill it. We wanted to address it as much as humanly possible. And that's how we did this. And I spent 2 years on the phone talking to compliance officers from every corner of the world. And it was a great experience. And the best part about it is that I got to do it with my son. So he got a chance to experience things the right way, how you properly build a business, how you properly prepare, right? What is it? How does it go? Something like, it's not a plan until you've prepared properly, right? We spent 2 years preparing properly. This is not like and I said earlier, we've come from nowhere. But don't get me wrong, we've spent the last 2 years building a very solid foundation and building something that from the ground up addresses security and addresses privacy. And those were the two tenets of our business. If we could not do this by people retaining their privacy, because this does have a big brother effect.
Oh, yeah.
But when you think about it, right, people have been backing up email for 30 years. People have been recording telephone conversations for 30 years. If people don't think that there is oversight in everything that we do, right? You can't go to the ATM, withdraw $20 from the ATM without being on a camera someplace.
Exactly. Yeah.
And it's the reality of the world today, and that's okay, right? My response is very simple. Look, you'll find nothing on my phone that I would not want my mother to see, that I would not want my grandmother to see. Yep. Same thing on my computer. My girlfriend used to make fun of me because I didn't have a passcode on my phone. I didn't need it. There was nothing I was afraid of. It's an adult way to manage your devices. Look, do I still have friends that send me stuff that they shouldn't? Sure, but they're my friends. I love them. They're my brothers, right? That's okay. And I look at it and I laugh or I respond, and then I say, hey, delete, right? Because if something happens, I don't want anybody to see it. It's that simple. So,
Nuri, I tell you, the questions that are pounding in, normally I wait till like the last 10 minutes. I can't, because you got too many good ones coming in. I got to get to these. I loved your quote, by the way, about the plan. My other favorite quote is Mike Tyson, right? Everybody has a plan until they get punched in the face.
That's right.
As a serial entrepreneur, oh my God, you and I both, right? We could sit there all day and talk through those stories. But that punch in the face wakes you up a lot of times. All right, so here's some questions, man. These are great.
Sure.
Siddharth, not shockingly, is too. First one, he says, awesome idea. Because, guys, this is a really cool idea for a company. He asked, is the capture of messages entirely done at the business side of the conversation, or do you need txtsmarter apps that reside on the user device to capture their messages?
It's done in different ways for different platforms.
Makes sense.
Some of the solutions are web-based. Everything is permission-based. So before anything can be accessed, even if you install the Android app on your device, it does not pick up your information until you've given it permission, until it's been activated. The regulations of the various compliance organizations are that all data must be backed up, must be archived. So for us, we could build a yes list or a no list, and you could exclude a communication with, say, your spouse or your kid or your mother.
Yep.
So we could do that, but the problem is that's a data leak from our perspective, and we would rather position the data in a way where, say that a large organization, a large bank, is a customer of ours. The way we've done it is it requires multiple levels of approval in order for someone to access the data. So it can't just be a person that's an administrator. There's going to be multiple levels of approval necessary to gather the data. And when you're talking about 6 trillion messages a day, no one's got the time to go through this stuff. Nobody cares if your wife or somebody said bring home a gallon of milk or a basket of eggs. That's just not how it's going to work. There's simply too much data. And that's just in messaging. Now add Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn. By the time we're done, we'll be at nearly 80 different platforms. Nobody has that. Nobody has the time nor the inclination to do this. As much as the TMZ world that we live in, right? Nobody has that. Nobody cares. And that's the thing that people have to realize. My phone was the very first phone connected to txtsmarter. It has been since last year. And some of the times when I look at some of the numbers of messages and data that we've backed up on my device alone, it's shocking because I had no idea that I was on my phone that much. And it's kind of sobering because you wonder how many times when I did that was I not in the moment?
Yeah.
Right? Was I not enjoying the time with my son or whomever I was with my friends, right? With my coworkers. And that's one of the things that you look at from here and you say, wow, I want to be sure that I'm only doing the things I need to do. And you're also careful about what you do and say because there's now almost a forever record of everything that you say. So as we go through this, we think to ourselves, imagine back in 2008 in the mortgage crisis. Imagine how many things would have been on the record that potentially would have prevented a significant amount of losses from organizations due to fraudulent activity. And I'm not in any way implicating anybody or saying anything. I'm using it very much an imaginary situation. But there were things that were going on that frankly shouldn't have happened.
You used the term, by the way, and I love that you did that. You talked about leakage. And I get what you're talking about. So that everybody knows, in my last job at the firm before I'm at now, if you remember the Department of Justice ruling on all of the mortgages going back through, oh my God, years of mortgage applications and everything through that. I actually helped run up part of our firms. Our firm won that business from two of the largest banks in the U.S., where basically we were just scrolling by hand through, as you could imagine, Nuri, data documents. And I guarantee you during that time, the leakage that occurred from stuff that went across in text messages. You and I both know that. Can you just do me a favor? Give us a very simple explanation of what leakage means in the context of what you do.
So leakage is basically any data that's not accessible to a required audit. So text messages now.
Massive.
Basically, yeah. We're aware that some of the largest financial institutions in the UK, because they've told us that they're non-compliant with FCA regulations, because the technology to do what's necessary per the regulations wasn't available until we developed it last year. Yeah. And unfortunately, this is one of the issues that exists in every oversight agency in the world. They put rules into place, and just like I watch senators and congressmen, I watch them put rules in place that cannot be enforced. And that doesn't work. I wish that they would come and talk to us. I wish they would come and talk to other people in the space, yeah, so that there would be ways for them to know how we could address these things. Because look, I'm born and raised in Silicon Valley. Some of the smartest people in the world are here in our backyard. And yet, unfortunately, because of various reasons, they don't come and talk to us. And, you know, I loved one of the things when Zuckerberg went in front of a congressman and he pulled out an old AOL CD-ROM. Is this what Facebook is? And yeah, that's not a story. That's a real life event. Yep. And you say to yourself, how is that possible in today's world? But anyhow, we won't go into politics. But so to answer your question, leakage is data that's not available. And the problem is that unless you can access all of the data, an audit is going to fail. Yep. And if an audit fails, the financial consequences to a failed audit, sanctions in the financial industry in 2019 were in excess of $300 billion. Jeez. So you're not talking about pocket change.
Yeah.
You're talking about major effect upon large institutions. And yeah, do they have money? Sure. But wouldn't they rather it go to the shareholders? Positively affect their tax, their stock price?
You're gonna love, or Nuri, you're gonna love this. I just called you Yuri. I'm sure that never happens, Nuri. No one ever calls you Nuri. Never. Why would that ever happen? This one's interesting. Dan's with the digital platforms for Fair Finance. He's in London, and he's giving you potential use cases. He said, from your firm's work with WhatsApp, can the messaging service move money across borders given regulatory approval? Dan, come on, baby. Nuri, do you want to get in the money movement? Say no.
No.
Please. No. Thank God.
Well, I'm saying no because I don't know enough about it to answer the question.
Then your answer should certainly be no. Yes. By the way, but I love how Dan thinks. I love that he went there. And the next question, and you talked a little bit about this. This comes from Jean Donnelly with the FinTech Sandbox. Hey, Jean, she always asks good questions. And you've addressed some of this already. She says, how does txtsmarter ensure consumer consent? You talked about that. And how does it deal with the requirement around forgetting or deleting a customer? That's a good question. That's one I'm always curious about.
Well, the regulations are such that if it has to do with data regarding compliance,
yep,
you don't have to delete it.
Wow. Okay. So it lives indefinitely as long as
it lives for the necessary. It lives for the necessary period of time in which the requirement. So, for example, FCA rules are approximately 7 years, yep, and I'm saying approximately because it might be 5. I don't remember.
Right.
But what we do is we hold on to the data. But see, what most people don't realize is we hold on to the data in an opaque fashion. So it can't be read by anybody. It requires 2 keys, of which we don't have one. The keys belong to our customer. The data belongs to our customer. So even if in our repository the data is there, it is kept in such a way that nobody can see it. So if there's a hack that occurs or somebody somehow figures something out, everything is double encrypted and can't be seen. Right. So this is one of the ways that we ensure privacy.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. And then I'm sure this is something that, like you said, eventually you can have, I think you said up to 80 different platforms or systems to be able to pull from. And we're running out of time. I do want to say this. Your actual footprint, so you have a distributed team, so you have team members. Yeah, I saw this. Besides in Silicon Valley, you got Oklahoma. I love that.
Yeah.
By the way, you got some overseas too, right? I mean, you got quite a mix. Yeah. So, and obviously you have that because you're talking about WhatsApp. It is rather funny, and for someone who works for an international company, right? I'm using Messenger for folks here in the U.S. I'm using WhatsApp from my team in London, and anytime I travel over to Europe. So consumer behaviors and where they're at, what they tend to use, obviously varies market to market. All right, one last question that Dr. Abdullah asked us, and then we got to wrap, folks. I'm sorry. Say, hey, Dr. Abdullah. So you got a question on from Saudi Arabia. Is your SMS solutions used for authenticating online banking transactions, or has there been any talk from your customers about branching out besides just the data retention part?
I'm sure that the technology to do that type of authorization is possible. It's not where our focus is at this time.
Good answer.
Our focus at this time is to fill this huge gap that exists in data archiving. And that's where we have focused. We focus primarily in the financial area. Look, I'm going to quote somebody that was very, very specific in a conversation we had. Again, one of the largest banks in the world. We had people, part of their team from the United States, from London, and from Asia. And the guy who runs the group said something, and it was wonderful. He said this to everybody on the phone. It wasn't just to us. He said, look, this compliance is a train coming down the track. Either we get on the train or we get hit by the train. That's our choice. And I just sat there and probably had the largest Cheshire cat grin on my face because I couldn't have said it better. And this is an EVP at one of the largest banks in the world. And they're aware of this. The world is aware of this. They know this is coming. They know that it is needed. And what we've built, something that as a group we're extremely proud of, right? And I'm gonna say something here. I'm especially proud of the guys who wrote this code. These are our makers. The people that are makers in the world are different than guys like me. I sell, I talk, I evangelize. That's what I do here in these interviews and in other press, and it's wonderful. I'm a ham, but in the end, I don't build anything. That's not what I do. These are my ideas. This is my vision. We've developed this path together, but the people who build, the people who have that creative, who have that knowledge, those are the people that make the difference.
Amen. Thank you for giving them a shout out. And folks, we're up against the hour, which sucks. So we got plenty of links. Go out and look at the solution, folks. I mean, flat out, just to connect with Nuri on LinkedIn. Again, we'll make sure we have the links in the show notes for this. Thanks for being here. Flies by, doesn't it?
It does.
All right, folks, tomorrow, David Breyer will be on at 8:30 a.m. BST. Sam Maul's going to do math. That's 3:30 in the morning on the East Coast. So most of you won't be watching. But for those of you who are in Europe and the rest of the world, jump on. He'll be talking to Simon Cole from Artificial Intelligence. Nice name. By the way, folks, I'm sure you got that trademark. That's it for today. Everybody, thanks for being here. Thanks for the questions. Nuri, thanks for joining us. And we'll see you all tomorrow.
My pleasure. Thank you.